So your first shift full-time at 99.1 was what day part?
I did middays at first.
Okay.
But it was only for like 6 months. I got hired on as middays in production.
Okay.
And then after that, I ended up becoming the afternoon guy for about 19 years. Oh, about 18 and a half, 19 years, somewhere in there.
So middays was like a brief thing.
Hated middays. Just
Why did you hate middays though? Was it because you had to get up early and then?
No.
Was it the longest on air? What is the bit? What about middays?
I like talking to people on the phones, and the phones just don't ring on a midday shift.
Gotcha.
You're usually not giving as much stuff away, and people are busy working. You're just background, which is fine for some people, but I really, maybe it's my fragile ego. I like to be foreground.
Fragile ego.
I like to have people on the phones talking with me. It's just the radio that I love involves phone callers.
So you were on 99.1 KGGI afternoons for 19 years.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's a long time, especially in radio. I mean, that's a great thing.
There's a couple of variances. There was one 8-month stretch where I did mornings with Jeff Pope. And that was...
I think I remember that.
It was a transition when we...
Yes.
The powers that be tried to syndicate this morning show to San Francisco called The Doghouse, and it wasn't working. When I finally got to be the boss at 99.1, the hardest thing in my, job description that my boss said is we need to get that show off the air. But our consultant was the program director in San Francisco, Michael Martin, who's still a good friend. But I had to convince Michael to take his morning show off our station so that we could put on a local show without getting fired in my first ever program director job. I'm going to talk about a slippery slope.
Yeah.
And it worked. And even though I was doing mornings I ended up hiring Jeff Pope from across the street. He was working at X1039 at the time. And we had Michelle from JJ Fat on for a while. And then we brought in this guy named Bubba. But eventually I was like, okay, I just can't be the program director and the morning guy, and this just ain't working.
Right.
So we need a different dynamic. I'm going to go back to afternoons. I did that, and then everything just started coming into place. We got Evelyn on the morning show, and then...
But how did you become a program director doing afternoons on 99.1? How did you get the PD role? Because for those who don't know the business, the program director is basically the boss. He gets to hire all the DJs, all the jocks, gets to schedule, pick which songs get played on the radio.
Yeah. Well, I went through 4 other program directors in 6 years. And each time I slowly climbed the ladder up a little bit as trying to be one of their right-hand people without getting dragged out the door with them, if that makes any sense. Right. And finally, I was able to convince our general manager, Bob Ridzak, even though, he had bypassed me 2 other times just to give me a shot. And then Michael Martin, who I mentioned again, Michael Martin helped me big time because he was our consultant, and he even said to me, he's like, you're ready to do this, aren't you? And I'm like, yes, I am. I want the program director job. I want a chance. My brother had been a program director. He ended up becoming the program director of my old station in North Dakota. Yeah. And he would tell me, hey, dude, just hang with it because your worst day as program director is still better than your best day as just a regular jock on the station. And I think he's right because it's your baby and you get to put all of your passion into it. And it's, even though it's a team effort, everybody, it's like that old parable of the stone soup. Everybody's contributing to the soup. When you're doing it right, you've got all these different people bringing in all this stuff, whether it's a professional sports team or a music group or whatever. Everybody's contributing their stuff, but you're still the person that's putting it all together and creating the recipe and creating hopefully something magical that you can put your name and stamp on and say, well, yeah, look what we created. It's creativity, and you get to be the person in charge of it. And when you've worked for other people and you don't always agree with their direction, you still have to do it. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the job. I mean, yes, we don't get told what to say, except in the absolute worst circumstances of radio, which I've been in that too, where you have liner jocks, you have to basically read these liners all the time. I mean, that's just not fun.
But I feel like not everybody can be a program director because it takes, because I'm looking at you and other program directors that I've worked with, a certain kind of discipline or maturity that you have to have, or I feel like every program director has had, in my career at least.
Well, I suppose that's true. There's a lot of responsibility involved in it, but I think that anybody can do the job. I mean, sometimes you just get baptized by fire.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised what you're able to do if you've got a little bit of experience under your belt and
Right.
you have an opportunity. I mean,
Yeah.
not everybody that I've seen be a successful PD wanted to be a PD right away. Program directors, what I'm talking about, PD is not police department. Just so everybody's aware.
Take it back to the beginning. Yeah. So you're the program director at 99.1 KGGI, and this is where the I feel like the legendary status of Jesse Duran is where it all began, at least for me, because I grew up here in the IE, born in LA, but I grew up here in Rancho Cucamonga.
Yeah.
And everybody knows Jesse Duran, the name. By now, everybody does. And I feel like, a lot of that has to do with the fact that you had 99.1 for so long. I mean, that was a long time.
It was a station that a lot of people could listen to.
Yeah.
We were, it's called Top 40 Rhythmic, but I, on purpose, because of the competitive situation, tried to make it a little bit more mass appeal. So we played songs that maybe 99.1 probably wouldn't have played normally if I wasn't the program director. We played In the End by Linkin Park. We played Fly Away by Lenny Kravitz. We played some of those middle-of-the-road rock songs that you could get away with that normally wouldn't be played on an R&B station that was playing hip-hop and Snoop Dogg and Eminem. So we had a good mix of music that I think was a little bit more mass appeal. Plus, we mixed in a lot of oldies and old school that the Inland Empire loves old school.
Yeah.
And so we had a wide variety of listenership, and I think that attracted a mass appeal audience. So if you live here in the Inland Empire for any period of time, from the 90s to the 2000s, you probably heard of myself. You probably heard of ODM. You probably heard of Jeff Pope and
Mike Medina, too.
All those guys that were on the station with us. So Freddie Rivera.
Oh, it's true, though, because that was my first gig. But you've seen how the Inland Empire has grown since when you first got here to where it is now. And I feel like I don't know why we don't have our own TV network at this point. Granted,
it's ridiculous.
We're too close to Los Angeles, but
that's the whole problem. Because we're so close to Los Angeles, it's just cheaper and easier for them to just group us in with LA. This is its own market. What we really need is a pro sports team out here.
Yeah.
San Jose, which is in a similar scenario being grouped in with San Francisco, they have their own pro hockey team, the San Jose Sharks. And just by having that, it gives the market some identity. And then you've got all the tech stuff, which also in San Jose gives them some identity. I mean, we have some tech stuff here too, not on the level of San Jose, obviously, but, ESRI is a big company in Redlands that, has 30,000 employees. There's stuff here in the Inland Empire that people don't really even know about how big this market is and what a big time deal it is. Amazon. I mean, we are the logistics headquarters for so many companies here in the Inland Empire. So it's a growing market in a lot of ways just for that reason.
But what's unique about the IE is that it's big, but it's not big LA where you can be a news reporter and not get noticed walking down the street, because at the time, if you were a radio DJ in the IE, you were, as we joked around, the lowest form of a celebrity. Because it was I felt that I felt that way. I felt like it was a dream. It was almost not reality to be feeling that way, and it was incredible because everybody knew you. You'd get noticed at the store.
Yeah, I got noticed at the store yesterday. I was at Vaughn's with a mask on. Hey, Jesse Duran.
That was it was cool. It was cool to be feeling that.
Well, that is one of the perks of radio.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a little bit of an ego rush for people to come up to you and say, hey, I listened to your show.
Yeah.
And I think you owe it to them to be a nice person because, they take the time out of their day to listen to you. I know I grew up listening to radio, and the people that were really, really nice when I met them, gosh, that just made all the difference in the world. There are a few people I've met in radio that I really liked that I didn't after I met them, and it made a big difference, But some of the guys, I want to shout out one guy right now. I had the pleasure of working with him at 99.1 for 2 years. When I first did middays at 99.1, I worked with him, followed him on the air for 6 months. I mean, we're still good friends to this day. He was a hero of mine in North Dakota. I mean, I just thought, wow, how cool it would be to be Hollywood Hamilton on KISS FM. And then I got to work with Hollywood Hamilton on KISS FM.
Guy's a legend.
And, he's still doing it in New York. He's on KTU in New York, and he's been there for years and years and years. But, awesome to be able to say, hey, I worked with that guy for a couple of years. We're friends. We We still talk on social media or whatever, and it's just great.